If we rewind back to when I had my Pilates studio, I remember having a conversation with a fellow business owner. She had a wonderful giftware store, and I know at the time that I just was having all of these teething problems. I think from memory, I was about like my fourth year in, we just moved locations. So this was our second physical location. And I was having staffing problems and growth problems, and everything just felt so damn hard. And I was having conversations with a business owner who I think at this point of time was like in year 6 of business, and how, they said to me, years 3 and 5 are so challenging in business. And at the time, I think when you're in it, you can't really see why that is. But once you've gone through it and you have worked with clients that have gone through it, you can completely understand why, I believe that years 3 to 5 are the most challenging in business. Now, if you are brand new, if you are like fresh, you are fresh meat, you're 6 months in and you're like, shit, I'm already struggling. This is a different kind of hard, and you are still going to find some goodness in this episode, just as if you were 10 years in or whatever, okay? But this episode is going to be perfect if you are approaching that 3-year mark, or if you're in that 3 to 5, even 6-year window. You feel like you kind of want to burn shit down, stuff is breaking, there are continual problems. This episode is going to be for you. I want you to take a minute to just think back to when you first started your business. I want you to think about who you were working with, what you wanted to do, and how everything looked. And I want you to think about what made you excited. Like if you were having a great day, what made your day a great damn day? And if you had a win, what would be the win? And if your head hit the pillow and you felt like that you had an amazing achievement, what was it that you achieved? I bet that everything that you just thought about happens in your business currently. The only difference is back then it was a goal, and for current you, it's a standard. So it was a goal for you to get a client. It is a standard for you now that you have clients. It was a goal for you to get to whatever milestone, maybe your first $1,000 month or $5,000 month. Now that is a standard for you. And you can look back at everything that you were excited about and how right now in your business, this is just an expectation. It is a standard that you have, and it is something that you expect. So when that happens, there's a chance that you're not really excited by it, because you're like, well, of course, this is a standard. This is what I command. This is what I expect. And that is just the first thing to think about. If you are in this kind of period, we don't celebrate the same stuff because it is so normal, because we do it all the time. I popped an example in Business Bang. We have like a Slack channel, and I was recording them some voice notes this morning, which really inspired this podcast episode. And the example that I used was I checked my phone and I noticed some Stripe notifications of payments, and how I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like, isn't that awesome that I just get paid and that it's like my monthly recurring revenue. I haven't really had to do anything for the sale. And when I saw the money, how normal it was for me, because it is just a standard now that I get paid every single day, where past me would have felt like celebrating, being like, oh my gosh, isn't this awesome? Even just the idea of selling that would have just felt so almost out of reach, because it was so new. It was something I was working towards, where me now, I'm like, yeah, this is so normal. And I think it's something that you kind of encounter as you're in business, is that stuff is kind of never going to hit the same, right? It's like, that saying, it's only kinky the first time. I think it's kind of the same in business. Like, stuff will kind of hit the same for a little bit, and then it will feel different. So that is the first thing, where if you're even feeling like that you are just not as excited about your business as you used to be, you felt like the past version of you when you just started was just continually excited by everything, there is a chance now that your goals are your standards. And I just want you to think, how fun is that what you once desired is now your reality. And it's not even something that you even have to really work for. It's something that probably just happens. And that is thrilling. So that's something that I think happens in that 3 to 5 year mark, where when you're new, you have a lot of firsts. Everything is exciting. You know, you've got your first client, your first big month, your first launch. You know, you're kind of going through the motions with that. And at the same time, you're really fueled with how you feel so excited by the whole process. It's like you're a beginner, you're brand new, and that is going to fuel you. But as you get further along, this is where, you know, you really need to obviously have that passion. But there are going to be times when it's like, you know, this isn't you just following your love or following your passion. Like, this is your business and this sustains you. And because of that, and this may be some unsexy advice, sometimes when we get to a particular point in business, we need to make different decisions. And we can't just do things being like, oh, this is fun, because in that 3 to 5 year mark, we now have more responsibilities. When we start our business, there's a chance that we don't have contractors, we don't have staff. At the 3 to 5 year mark, we probably have people that we are responsible to. When we start, we're probably not paying ourselves. That 3 to 5 year mark, we are paying ourselves. So you can see how there is a real difference between when we start a business versus this real sticking point. And what I will say is, if you master this and if you can refine what you're in now and use the data to make your business better, as we get to that year 6 mark, oh my gosh, this is where it becomes really, really good. Now, I will say, I think that social media and online business has really skewed this. I think that it has people believing that they can create a super successful business and a super profitable business at the drop of a hat. And I'm not saying that you can't, because you know what? There is always data for people doing well, but I don't think that you can escape this. And this is probably something that you see around that 3 to 5 year mark, where there is people who their business was doing really well, they were profitable, but then they fell out of love, or they broke their business, or they wanted to do something in a particular way. And it's because they're really settling into it. And it can almost, I think, at times be confronting, seeing the business that you have and what you've built and being like, is this something that I'm actually enjoying? Do I love the direction that I'm heading? So I've got some things for us to talk about and to think about, and a little bit of a game plan if you are feeling like you're in this spot, or you know what, even if you're like, I'm brand new, well, follow along. You are still going to find benefit in everything that I always have to tell you. So the first thing that you are going to do is, this is the perfect time to reestablish your goals and your vision, to think about where you are going, because this is so important, because we want to make sure that we actually are heading in that direction. And we want to make sure that we are being guided by something bigger than us and bigger than just making money so we can pay our bills and show up to work tomorrow, right? So this is perfect for us to reestablish that, because there is a chance that, you know, when you're in the game and when you have some data under your belt, you've got a couple years of business, that has changed, and that is okay. This is where you may find that you have fallen out of love for something, or that it has taken a change of direction that you didn't think that it would. And again, that is fine. We are meant to shift and we are meant to change. Now, if you desire a little helping hand here, I do have a wonderful self-paced offering. It's called Who Are You Becoming? It's 35 Australian dollars. It is reasonable. It's reasonable. And what it will help you do is really audit. It says audit the year, but you can really use this in any time. It tells you to audit, celebrate, and then set some new boundaries and standards. So I love to kind of do all of these things together when I'm looking at my goal setting and my vision setting. So you can just take a minute to right now, even pause this if you want, and to really think about, where in business is it that you desire to go? What are you working towards right now? And there is something that you'll be working towards. I don't want you to think that means like huge growth. that if you are, say, doing $100,000 a year, but that means that you're growing towards $1 million a year, this could be as simple as you being like, I just want a really beautiful lifestyle business and I want to feel at ease in the fact that I always have money to pay myself and that I can have all school holidays off, whatever that is. So this is a chance for you to kind of assess your goals. If we were working together, I like to look at a profit goal, what you want to pay yourself. I like to look at a revenue goal, so a sales goal, and anything else that's kind of important and standing out. This is going to really differ depending on the business and the industry. So for example, my ultimate goal is that we have 10,000 business owners in Give Good Email. That feels really, really stretchy. And it's something that I'm working towards. You know, if you're a different business model, if you're e-commerce, you may want to have like these beautiful 5 products developed, or maybe you have like a sales goal as well, compared to say a service provider that potentially is like, I feel really lit up by having $1 million business here. It's like Brooke Castillo, she has her goal of making $100 million a year as a life coach. Now, what I also want to say as well is when you're goal setting, it's so important for you to remove logic from this. And why I say that is because quite often when we bring logic in, we are designing our future based on our past, because our logic is based on what we have done and where we have been and not where we're going. So forget about that for a second, because this always comes back to your strategy. But this is where you can get really honest with yourself of, are you happy in the direction that you're heading? Now, when you have that down pat, and I would always encourage writing this down, this is where we can look at our standards. Now, I have 2 incredible podcast episodes on this. From memory, it's episode 27 and 28, and it's on new standards for business. I'll link it below. The first episode is on standards, and then the next episode is on like your body of work, so your content and your offers that you're putting out. And they would be really good for you to listen to as a follow-up, even if you've listened to them before. Because I think, you know, just knowing this and having this conversation, it's going to get you to look at things differently. So I want you to see your standards as basically a rule book of how you live. If someone was to have your standards, they were to have your life. If they were to have your standards in business and how you show up, they would have your business. And this is where, if we want a different outcome, if we want a better outcome, we need to look at our standards and what we accept. And this is where we need to raise them. So there is a chance that automatically, even if you feel like that you haven't particularly grown, if you're like in that murky 3 to 5 year point and you're like, oh, this still feels really hard, I bet there is a chance that you have raised your standards compared to when you've started. And this is where we get to do this again. So something awesome about having a business that is ours is we get to change the rules every single day. You could decide today and set the intention, and tomorrow wake up and put that into action. And how exciting is that? So I recommend that if you are in this murky point, is to set some new standards. What are your standards? You know, what are your standards for your clients? What are your standards for you? What are your standards for your staff and your content and how you show up? And you may realize, oh shit, I don't really have standards. Or hey, I've actually grown, but I've grown against what I originally started. So I don't have any standards anymore. And that's why I'm feeling really a little bit fucked, because I just don't have like this rule book of how I'm meant to be living. I'm kind of accepting all the clients, I'm doing all the work, and this just doesn't feel good. So what I would recommend is that you set some and that you stick with it, and that you keep them in a spot that you will revisit, and that this is a refinement period for you. So especially if you are busy and if you feel like that you have built a really good business, but there's just still something that doesn't feel that, there's just something you can't put your finger on, this is where I would look at your standards, because quite often we don't want to fall into the trap of, well, I'm doing this because I should do this, or this is kind of what to expect. So an example of this is clients not paying. And you'll often hear people say that's part of doing business. And it's like, is it? Or do you just need to run your business better? Do you have really low standards for what you accept and your client terms? So this is where we can set our new standards, and you can even just get clear on what they are. You'll also find in this time that there is a chance that there has been a shift with your offerings, your products, and your services. So what you get paid for. What you originally set out to do may be really different now, or potentially you are still selling and holding on to stuff that baby business owner you did. And maybe this is why you feel really stagnant, because it's like you're wearing baby's clothing and you're like a business child now. So you can look at what you're selling and what you're charging and be like, is this me? You know, knowing my goal, knowing where I'm going, is this actually suited to me? A lot of the time, this is where people want to break their business because they feel like they're selling stuff that is like an outdated version of themselves. Now, where this can also become a little bit challenging is we need to remember that sometimes we also don't need to be so lit up and excited by everything that we're doing in our business. You know, it's so comfortable and familiar to us, but at the same time, it's actually really exciting to new people that find us. So an example of this is, you know, I have gone through stages with Give Good Email where I love the program. I think it's amazing. But there are times when I'm just like, oh, I just can't be bothered talking about it because I'm kind of a bit sick of it. It doesn't mean that it's a bad program. It just means that I've been doing this for such a long time that the launch excitement sometimes isn't there, and that's completely okay. But where you need to be really discerning here is working out, okay, am I just so in the rhythm of things that this just feels so normal, or is this something that I should not be selling because this is a past version of me? We can look at all big brands and how they don't reinvent their branding or reinvent their offers like every 6 months or every 3 months. Like, could you imagine if McDonald's rebranded every 3 months? That would be so costly to the business. And you think about how they would have to update everything and all their branding and their signage and like do awareness campaigns so people could, you know, recognize their new branding. And I know some of you might be like, oh, I wouldn't have to do that. But at the same time, you kind of do, because your time has a value. And the more that you spend doing that, it's going to prevent you from doing other things. And also the mental heaviness and the weightiness that actually brings as well. So that's another thing to think about. But what you will find here is that when we get to this time in business, this timepiece, you will need to look at your offers and be like, am I happy with the direction that I'm going, knowing my goals? Am I happy with the body of work that I'm creating? Is this now a refinement piece of what I'm doing? Or potentially, am I elevating into a new stage of business? You will see this quite often with people that will be, say, doing the work as a service provider, that then will be elevating into more of a consulting role. So instead of becoming a writer and doing writing, maybe they're like, you know what? I don't want to grow an agency. I don't want to do this anymore. But what I feel really lit up about is I want to teach and I want to consult and I want to train. And I want to, instead of impacting one person, I want to take my impact a bit more global and I want to impact more people than one. So you could see this a lot in my business, where when I started, I was doing a lot of client work. If you wanted to work with me to like write your email campaigns and your sequences, I would do that. Do I do that now? Absolutely not. I'll go in as a consultant and I'll work with a team, and I'm not writing shit for clients. And it's interesting that I feel like I kind of grew out of that really quick, where if I was still doing that, I can tell that I would have a real sense of identity crisis right now, because I'd be like, well, I'm not a writer. What can I do? Or I want to break my business. Instead of seeing that, I'm kind of at this point now where, especially if I have like a big financial goal, I need to be really conscious with where my time and where my attention is going, and that I am, again, growing in a direction that feels really good for me. You'll also see this too with shifting with your clients. So you may be like, you know what, my offers are good. I feel like I'm evolving them. I feel like I've got some stuff that is solid. Like I'm in a good process of culling what is kind of a bit outdated and not on brand. I've got some stuff that's proven this is really good. And ideally we should be at that point where we have some things that we're known for, right? That if someone was to like, if you think of this person, what do they sell? They're known for that. Ideally, we should be having some things like that. But there is a chance that we have also changed the person or the customer that we had set out to work with. So this is something that I have gone through where when I started my business, I was really passionate about working with startups. I understood what it was like to be a startup and have a small business and have to do everything myself. And I noticed after a while that I am not the best person to help these people because I work really well with people that are happy to move fast. And people that are happy to move fast understand who they are, they know where they're going, they know where they want to go, and they have data. And we don't have to get bogged down into spending weeks, even months, making a fucking decision. And this has been a real shift with me in my business, and something that I'll say even at the start of the year, I have really made an intentional shift of who I talk to, how I talk to them, to position my offers in a way where I'm getting these people in. And let me tell you, the wildest things have happened. I have had people that I have never worked with before, ever, come out of the woodworks and be like, I want to pay you thousands of dollars to go in business bank, or I want to work with you. And I have never worked with these people before because I've made this intentional shift that some programs and where my energy is best spent is with established business owners. That's where we get the results because they are ready to move. And as I said, they know who they are. They know where they're going. Startups I can still work with. I'm probably not the best person for them. Unless they just want to move fast and they are happy to take direction and they're so coachable. So what you'll find in this period is that you may realize that you love the business that you originally built, but there is something about it where potentially it's not viable. Maybe you are servicing a segment of customers that you're like, for my goals to happen in the business that I want, there needs to be some shift. You know, Alex Hormozy always says, if you want to make a lot of money, sell something to rich people. And this may be for a couple of you realizing that with the business that you want and the money that you want to make and how you have set things up, that you may need to have a bit of a shift with who you are talking to. There will be some people that will say, no, you know, you can sell cheap stuff to the masses. This comes back to your business model. And something I will say, for a lot of people, you just do not have the traffic and the sales strategy to support the volume needed to have that big goal. So this is where, you know, in this 3 to 5 year mark, sometimes the veil is lifted, you see your business for what it is, and you have to make some very fucking hard decisions. And potentially the segment that you wanted to work with originally, you were doing stuff one-to-one with them, you're like, you know what, I can't do that now. But what I am going to do is I'm going to have some other little products or some group programs or whatever it is. I'm going to work with them in this particular way. So there is always something that you can kind of do, but you may find that what your shift is going to have to be and what you focus on now is who you work with. So when I had the studio, I would say that this probably happened for me in year 3, where when I started my business, I really wanted to work with dancers. And what I found is that I wasn't working with dancers. But what was happening is I had built this business where I had assumed I was going to work with dancers and that I would get an influx of dancers. So because of that, my price point was quite low. So you could buy 5 Pilates classes with me for $50. If you wanted to have a semi-private and a mat class, it was $35 a week. Like, it was cheap because that was my target market. So what started to happen is when this shifted and we were getting different clients in that were not that target market, the classes have to shift. They had to change. We had to be a bit more structured. We were dealing with people that were older, that had injuries, and then it affected how many people we could have in a class. So because of that, we had to look at everything. When I say we, I mean me and my business. And I had to be like, right, we've got to have a price increase. Right, we've got to do this. Right, we've got to change our branding. we can't just advertise on MySpace anymore because here is who we're going to help. And I know that there are going to be some people being like, oh, but you're straying from your initial mission. But my initial mission had just grown. When I had started my business, this was really important for me in that moment, but I had naturally grown and evolved, and there was a maturity to not only me, but my business. And when I had kind of gotten through the first couple of years, it's like, even though I thought this was my vision, oh, this is actually my vision now. And that was revealed to me, and there had to be some shifts that had to happen. So this could be something that you're going through now where there is that shift of who you wanted to work with and what your business looked like. And then because of that, you're going to have a shift with your customer. And this is where, we would look at your pricing and your messaging and your positioning and all of the things that you are selling. And why sometimes you'll find that, especially at this point in time, people will usually know who they are and they invest in a big rebrand. They go and they get another big photo shoot. They update their website. They do all of the things, and there becomes this almost like leveled up sense of maturity in this new business and a new era to everything that they're doing. And how exciting is that? And then from there, I think they're the main things, but you'll see this then flow out if this, you are changing who you're talking to and how you're doing things. This will then affect your content. This will then affect like your sales strategy. Everything from there will flow out and affect that. So I think that if you can get through this period and you can refine it, you will just come up with the most beautiful business. And this is, I truly believe, where the real sense of stability comes in. Like, I don't care what anyone says. If you are a year in business and people are talking about how you can have stability, you're not going to have fucking stability. You're probably going to have temporary stability, but it's very hard to build something that is lasting and a good reputation in that time. That is going to take time. It is going to take time for you to figure out the people that you want to work with. It is going to take time to figure out, do I like my authors? Do I like how this is doing? And you only have that with time and with repetition and with consistency. You're not going to have that in a month, okay? It's just not going to happen. So hopefully with this episode, I've given you some things to think about, and that if you are in this period of time where you're in the 3 to 5 year period, how exciting is this? Because this is where you get to bring a whole new sense of maturity and evolution to everything that you are doing, and that you get to come out the end building something really, really sustainable. You can probably think of a number of people in business right now that have been doing the same thing consistently, that are around that like 6 to 10 year mark, and how they're just chilled. They've just got a different energy about them. They've got a really good reputation. And there's a few people coming to mind. Like, one of them is Denise Duffield Thomas. She has her money boot camp. She's doing so well. She's been doing it longer than that 6 to 10 year period. But if you look back, you can see around that point that stuff was just, I don't want to use the word ease, but I really saw her profile completely kick up. So hopefully this helped who it needed to, and that you have found some little gems to bite into with this episode. I would love to hear any thoughts that pop up. You can always DM me on Instagram @professionalbabe. So hot stuff. I love this. I love you. I love you more than my beautiful new nail color. It looks like I have like fairy nails. It's this like pearly pink, but under the light, it looks like blue. They're iridescent. They're stunning. So I love you more than that. I'm going out for Japanese tonight with my mom. She doesn't want to do anything on Mother's Day. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I was like, why don't we do something tonight? And she's just so excited because it kind of feels like a bit of a surprise. Well, it's not a surprise, but it was just this like little spontaneous thing. I'm like, let's go out for some Japanese food. I'm so excited. We're going to go for an early dinner. So I'm literally going to be eating in like an hour and a half, and I am pumped. So I love you more than that. I love you more than workplace gossip. Oh my gosh, the gossip in this place. I've never really had a workplace. Like, I had the studio and we had staff, but nothing really happened there. It was pretty boring gossip-wise. And then I had like my online business where there's just always stuff happening. And it's just so exciting. It's like, who would want to come to work when there's just always something going on? So hot stuff. I'll see you on the next episode. Have a day as sexy as you are. Mwah.